Because, I mean, I love the fact that in theory, this is, you're bad-mouthing Picard. We've loved Picard for ages. Oh my God, that's great. And yet, in that scene, we're kind of see his point. He's, kind of nailing this one.
It's interesting because a lot of people would, a lot of people have rushed to his defense saying it wasn't his fault that he was turned into Locutus. He was essentially possessed, right? Shaw's point is he believes the way that the crew of the Enterprise behaved, whether it's true or not, his belief is their cowboy ways poked the bear that led to the taking of Picard as Locutus. So he say they tempted fire, or they played with fire, and they did often, which is again like in the turbolift scene where he just sort of reads off all of their exploits.
That scene, particularly that speech, it was a great example of it. It's like Shaw got to say all of the things to Picard that Sisko didn't get to say in Emissary. What about the rest of the fleet? Are they as understanding?
Yeah, and for Sisko, it was fresh on the heels, right? And for Shaw, he's been living with it for 30 years and probably never came face to face with Picard before. So stuff that he thought he had perhaps forgotten about, reconcile, although the deep trauma completely informing kind of his whole approach, all just got stirred up like these things do, like grief and PTSD and survivor's guilt, and all these things got stirred up again the minute he laid eyes on and was in the same room as Picard.
Did you have any idea how the delivery of a single word would take over the internet?
Would it be awful if I said, "Oh, of course, sure, of course"?
Hey, we believe in truth here.
I knew I was just spitting gold. No, you never know. You just do a scene, and you never know what people are going to meme. You just do a scene. The irony being that the two times that I've said no on national television, they've become memes. One was from Supernatural, and the other is from Picard. You don't know. You don't, because you can't let that stuff inform you. You just have to do the scene, and you just play the scene. And by the way, like, I probably said it a dozen times that day, and whatever choice of the take, because that's sometimes what resonates is how you delivered it, and you just don't know. You never know. I mean, it's exciting and fun and silly and humbling and pleasing and all of those superlatives.
I could have told you what the last words were going to be as he said them, and that to me was good writing. It was set up in such a way.
As Robert McKee says, surprising yet inevitable conclusions. That you look at the math of the arc of a character and you go, well, that's satisfying. It may not be surprising in that the character eventually arcs to that place, but it's still satisfying in a way that sort of ties up so many of his dilemmas and his issues when you finally get to those final moments. And he is paying back a karmic debt. Someone did this for him.
There's that bit in the turbo lift where obviously Shaw goes, 99 Delta, maintenance deck. And Picard goes, great, everyone head to the maintenance deck. And I'm just thinking, how hard was it to not turn around to Patrick Stewart and go, you've just told everyone what this great secret.
I basically give us the exit and then he takes the credit for it. We'll escape that way, he says. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's what I just said. Okay. Like, if you rewatch it, I literally give us the exit, and then Picard says, we'll use those to escape. And I'm like, yeah. I think he's on private channels just to his...
Because the people who are waiting there obviously is, everyone, and Raffi as well are stood on the other side of the door.
Exactly.
When you think about in the beginning of the season, and I was one of these people, I thought, because we'd seen clips, so it was the final trailer, obviously we see the reveal of Captain Shaw, and I remember vividly turning to my friend and being like, he's not making it past episode 1. Because we're going to
You
get
weren't
Riker.
alone.
Yeah,
You weren't
Captain
alone.
Riker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have when the show was airing? Kind of. Yeah.
I loved poking people.
I was going to say, how many people were like, "Will we see you next week?" Or was it
a lot. Like as a joke, I said to Terry, because this character turned out resonating with people, and he's like, "What are we gonna say on the day on Twitter?" I said I should just tweet, "Who beat the spread?" in terms of who had episode 9. All right, bingo, you won. Like, a lot of people didn't think, and that's why I was making jokes that no, he doesn't make it past the opening credit sequence. He doesn't. We were just having fun with it. I don't think they expected the character to be as well drawn as he was, as realized as he was, and as how kind of integral to the plot as he became. Yeah, that was surprising. But to that, this isn't Star Trek The Next Generation. This was Star Trek Picard, and Shaw is a character on Picard. He's not a TNG character. And so he is able to navigate a different arc. And because it was a 10-episode show, and you don't have to backstory Deanna Troi. You don't have to backstory. So that when you get to them, the audience is already caught up. And so you can use that real estate to dig deeper into Shaw and his motivations and get us to care about this guy. And therefore, his sacrifice becomes meaningful. Well, and the funny thing is I had read the scripts, so I knew where this character was going. It's fun to watch people react page by page as they go through. I hate him. I love him. I hate him again. It's and the way audiences make firm decisions based on one episode at a time. It's always fun. That was a joy for me. I love the fact that they hated this guy because I knew where it was going. I knew that the potential for him breaking your heart is down the road, and then the audience feels ownership because they feel they've experienced a change of heart internally, because they stood so firmly in one place emotionally here. It's better that this wasn't a bingeable show. They didn't dump all 10 episodes on us. It was better so that people could digest and get opinions and talk about it and share and collectively hate Shaw, but then say, but he's right. It was fun.
We all went into season 3 thinking, right, this is going to be, it's the end of Star Trek Picard, and we'll see what's next. And as the weeks went on, it got, the little buzz got louder and louder and louder. We want the Titan spin-off. We want Star Trek Legacy. I had a good chat with Olivia Youngers a couple of weeks ago. She's all in for a Riggs and Shaw spin-off. I'm just like, yeah, let's do that as well. This would be brilliant. This would be perfect. Obviously, you went and threw a spanner in that idea. You couldn't have stepped to the left. No, anyway, but you have actually been one of the people championing this idea of Star Trek Legacy. How would you feel if it happens and Shaw's a picture on the wall?
Well, I mean, it's Star Trek. So it's science fiction. So 100 things could happen, right? I was championing it because I believe that Terry Matalas has his thumb on the pulse of the 25th century, and he makes great TV, and there are more stories to be told. And I do not know what the future brings. They will always have my sword. I am part of their legacy, and I belong to Trek from till death, till my death, not till, and then even after. Like, Leonard Nimoy still belongs to Star Trek. Like, if they desperately feel they need to have him enter the picture again, they'll figure out a way. So. Or I'm a picture on a wall. Some deaths are absolutely final, but that's all going to depend on the stories that they want to tell.
That is true.
And
now I have a way to bring you back.
Oh, good.
So I have a way to bring you back. So we don't know for certain that Shaw's not a descendant of Talok. So we know that the Vulcans and the Romulans can do the Catra thing. As you mentioned, Spock and everything. who's to say?
Yeah. I mean, look, and the reality is, and that'll also be the fun thing online is to see if people try to sleuth out a way because they like this guy. In the meantime, if all I ever got to do is Enterprise and this season of Picard, Jesus Christ, what an embarrassment of riches, right? What a treat. I think he had an impact on people, and he had an impact on Star Trek as a whole, and I dig that, and I'm very proud of it. And who knows what the future brings? I certainly do not.
You're 100% right. Like, he has had an impact. I know, personally, I know trauma survivors who have really identified with both the actions. You could say the actions negative or positive in terms of how he might react in a situation, because this is the nature of trauma. You don't get to choose how you react a lot of the time. The dead naming of 7 of 9 throughout the season. This is obviously a topic that's come up an awful lot. I think it's
big one.
Yes, I think it's handled very well. How aware were ye going into the season that, like, this is something? Now, you couldn't have known obviously how topical it would become right now, in terms of what's happening.
Well, look, it was topical when they were writing it. I didn't write it. They knew. And that's the thing that Star Trek does really well, and good science fiction does really well, is it takes on current issues and then it puts views it through a fantastical lens. This is through a Borg. Like, they choose to take on an issue that means a lot to the trans community, but they tell it through a Borg. And the fact that a Borg that happens to be at the very least bisexual, if not just a lesbian. So I can see why people connected to Seven and her arc completely, and then to have this character who does straddle the line between being what she was born and what she became, and then what she is choosing to identify as, and then to have an old white dude not conforming to her choices and insisting using his status to enforce other people to call her a certain way. I can see exactly why there was a negative reaction to it. You should have a negative reaction to it. And then you hear the Wolf 359 speech and you go, I don't agree with it, but I understand it. He wasn't doing it to be a dick. He was doing it because of darkness that lives in him and trauma and pain. He's going, I need this woman as my capable first officer. I have to compartmentalize part of who she is in order for me to be able to have her serve the best she can serve in Starfleet, because I believe I need her as my first officer, but I haven't recognized in my heart this other side of her. He's not making a choice to be a jerk.
Perfect. So, Todd, thank you so much. I know you're active on social media. Where's the best places for people to find you?
You can find me at T Stashwick on Instagram, Todd Stashwick on Twitter, and you can find my nerdy merch site called The Nerd Circus, where I sell D&D stuff and cocktail book, D&D inspired cocktail book, and glasses and dice towers and t-shirts and stuff. And I'm not saying there won't be stuff inspired by Shaw in the future. I'm not going to say there won't be.
I like the careful phrasing of that. Todd, thank you so much. Everyone who's watching and listening, thank you so much for joining us along. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'm sure you have. We'll be back next week again with another episode of The War Room. Until then, I've been Seán. This has been my lovely co-host Todd. And we will see you again soon. Live long and prosper,
Thanks,
everyone.
Seán. Cheers.
Cheers.